We're standing at the National Portrait Gallery in front of the network. It's 89 generative video portraits of people, most of whom are from within the Beltway, that are commonly referred to perhaps as power brokers, but they're all people who are setting the agenda in a variety of areas in Washington, D.C. If we think about the original idea of a portrait being a still image or an object or a drawing or print of an individual where that pictorial space has to tell their entire story, here I've come up with a way of telling the story in a completely different way, where we hear the people in their first-person voice talk about their legacy, challenges, and aspirations. The format for each of the portraits was 45 minutes, and really trying to find a time that would give me enough time to talk to them and they could fit it in their schedule, and I was very respectful of everybody's time. And so Justice O'Connor sat for her portrait, and as we began talking, and this happened with a lot of the portraits, where the conversations, we'd kind of enter this very liminal space about discussing things. It was really kind of beautiful. And so we're in this, we're talking about her early experiences and growing up in a ranch, and I realized that we are 40 minutes into the conversation. We're just about to get to her wedding in terms of a chronology of her life. So I stopped and I said, pardon me, Justice O'Connor, but I want to be respectful of your time. We have 5 minutes left, and I know that there's a lot of things that I'm sure you'd like to talk to me about in your life. She said, she paused for a second, and then she continued to tell me exactly about her wedding, and we spoke for about 90 minutes. And that was, again, in a number of the portraits, this real desire to tell the whole story. So out of each interview, or each portrait sitting, I used everything. I excised myself from it, but then everything else is in there. And there was real attention paid to fidelity of separating the video into sections that maintained the integrity of what they were saying. That was obviously a big concern across the board, but that's all in, everything's in there. And we used 3 cameras to do it. So, and then every time I would ask a question, the cameras would reframe the subject. They'd go in, they'd go out. So it gave this impression, as you can see over my shoulder, of really being wrapped around somebody and having that almost voyeuristic quality of being able to look at somebody's side of their face or an aspect of them that you normally wouldn't do having a conversation with them. So you'll notice on screen there's no titles. You have no idea, well, there's no titles on screen. And some of the people you may recognize by virtue of their media presence in the gallery. There is a catalog here you can look through. The decision to exclude their names was intentional. And for the simple reason that we all have informed opinions. We can call them biases, we can call them prejudices, but we all have these. And they often prohibit us from understanding or for having an open mind to somebody and what they're saying. We categorize, we classify people. Here I wanted the viewer not to think about who Karl Rove or Nancy Pelosi is and what their prior conception of them is. Listen to what they've got to say. Listen to what all these people have to say, and let's try and understand them in that unique light. One day, it just so happened by virtue of scheduling, I did a portrait of Karl Rove, and then later in the day did one of Jay Carney, and talked to them about their legacy, challenge, and aspiration. They were both in Florida on 9/11, Karl with President Bush and Jay as part of the press corps. And they each told these separate stories that were tethered by this single event in American history. And Karl's on Air Force One with the president, Jay is with the press corps kind of being thrown on and thrown off the airplane. And it was fascinating to hear just within that short span of time, these two very different stories. I kept my politics at the door. I don't think anybody in the project knows what my politics are. And I approached it with a very, very open mind, more of an interest in people and really exploring it. And again, I had a really wonderful conversation with Karl Rove, which I thought was a very heartfelt conversation about his experience on 9/11. And I think what came out of a lot of the interviews was this humbleness, this intelligence, these ideas of duty, service, and honor, which outside the Beltway are really the fodder for irony, but inside the Beltway are really kind of the core tenets of what motivates and drives a lot of the people in the project to do what they do.